Hello, Bella Voce. Today we are going to be working on a project with your song for Song 2. So I want you to take this music out, have it on your desk or on your table so that we can get some things marked in your music. So you're going to need two supplies. You're going to need a highlighter and you're going to need a pencil. Do not use a pen because if you make any kind of mistake, you're going to hate that pen a lot because you can't go back and erase the mistake that you made and fix everything. So make sure that you use a pencil just in case you make a numbering mistake, and you'll see what I mean in a few minutes, okay? So first we're going to start with our highlighter. All right, I'm going to highlight soprano parts with an orange highlighter, and I'm going to highlight alto parts with a blue highlighter so that you can see the difference between the two. So if you're a soprano, you should know that because you did the voice recording and I told you which voice part to sing. And if you're an alto, you should know that because I told you which voice part to sing. You're gonna be blue. Okay, so we're gonna start with the soprano line. All right, but before we do that, I'm going to reorient my camera so that you can see what I'm doing on my music. All right, so you should be able to see my music now. And I'm going to start labeling things, okay? So, here we go. Oh, you can see a little better. So what I'm going to do and what I want to show you first is how this is set up. So this line right here that connects this flute part down to this piano part creates what's called a stave. And this line is showing me that all of this music is happening simultaneously. The piano is playing and the flute is playing all at the same time. They're playing a duet together, okay? So now I come back down here. Here's our next stave. Same thing, flute and piano are playing together. Now we have a voice part in here, but look, we're not singing quite yet. The piano and flute are still playing there. And then you can see it's labeled part 1. This is where the sopranos come in, is right here on song 2. So I'm gonna highlight the staff that has my voice part in it. I'm not gonna highlight the words because sometimes words are shared between different staffs and it can get really confusing if you highlight just the words. So I want you to get in the good habit now of highlighting just the staff with your part on it, okay? So I come here to the end. And then remember, I'm at the end, so I have to come down to my next stave because if I go down to the next line, look, now I'm on my piano part. You always know where the piano part is because of this fancy bracket out here to the side. That always denotes a piano part. So you always know it's a piano part if it has this curly little bracket out to the side, okay? So remember, all of this music is happening simultaneously. So when I get to the end of the line, I have to move down to the next stave. And you can see this stave by that line that connects all of these parts together. Here's my part 1. I'm going to continue highlighting the top line. Altos, stick with me. Okay, I'm gonna do these things kind of at the same time. So I've got my soprano line highlighted. Now I'm gonna highlight my alto line. Now notice you're not singing yet, but you will be soon. We're gonna go ahead and highlight your part even though you're not singing yet, okay? So we've got page 1 all taken care of. Now we're gonna skip over to page 2, okay? Remember, here's my stave. It's connecting the soprano, the alto, and the piano all together. I'm gonna highlight my soprano line right here on top, and then my alto line is here. Now I'm gonna go down to my next stave, because remember when I get to the end here, I gotta move down to my next stave. Here's part 1. I'm gonna highlight that line. Now this part up here, that's my flute part. So you don't wanna highlight that, sopranos, that's the flute part. This is your part, okay? Altos, here's your part here where it says part 2. And here's my new stave. I'm gonna highlight part 1 and part 2, or the alto part, okay? Now I'm gonna move over to the next page. Here's my stave. Here is my soprano part, alto part, move down to my next stave, soprano, alto, next stave, soprano, alto, and go over to the last page. Here's my stave, soprano, alto, soprano, alto, last one, soprano, and alto. Okay, so now that you have your lines all highlighted, we're going to go back to the beginning and we're going to number your measures. And again, this is what I was telling you. You want to use a pencil, not a pen. Do not use a pen, all right? So here we go. Now, even though we don't start singing until down here, who do you think starts the music? That's right, it's the piano and the flute. They start the music, okay? So this is going to be measure 1, right there where the music actually begins. Now I can tell the end of measure 1 by these lines right here. These lines are called bar lines, and the purpose of a bar line is to separate measures. So this bar line ends measure 1, but it also begins measure 2. So I'm going to label that as measure 2, and remember, all of this is measure 1. Measure 1 for the flute and the piano part. Measure 2 for the flute and the piano part. Okay, so here's my bar line again, and this is going to be measure 3. Now remember, here's my bar line. I don't go from measure 3 to 4, 5, 6. Remember, all of this is measure 3. So when I get to the end of this stave, I have to go down to the next stave to get to measure 4. So here's measure 4, bar lines, measure 5, measure 6, bar lines, and measure 7. And here's the nice part. This song has some of the measures already numbered for you, so you can double check yourself as you go, which is really nice because if you make a mistake, every couple of measures or so, you're gonna have the publisher will have put measure numbers in there, so it helps you to stay on track. Okay, so we can see we got to measure 7, and the publisher is telling us this is measure 7, so we're good to go. All right, so let's keep going. Here's measure 8, bar lines, measure 9, measure 10, and measure 11. Okay, so I'm going to turn the page and I'm going to keep going. Okay, my last measure was 11, so my next one is measure 12. Oh, look, here I have 13, and look, it matches up with square 13. That's exactly what I want. 14, 15, 16, just go through and number all of those measures. Look, here's 19, matches up with 19 there. 20, 21, 22, 23. So when you get to the bottom of that second page, your last measure at the bottom of the second page should be 23. I'm going to flip over and keep going. 24, 25, matches up. We're still in good shape. 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, which matches up. 34, 35. Okay, let's turn our page. We're going to number all the way to the end. Just keep numbering. And when you get to the very end, your very last measure should be 47, okay? So if I did that really fast and you need me to slow down, you can always just pause this video and make sure that you understand how I got all of these measure numbers done. But just remember, these bar lines are what are separating all of my measures and make it real easy for me to separate and see the separation and where one measure ends and the other begins, okay? So go through, mark all of those measure numbers because I'm gonna be using measure numbers during every single one of our rehearsals. It's the most efficient way for me to call out, for us to have a starting position that's together. So if I said, all right, everybody turn to measure 34, then we could all just go straight to measure 34 and the music and start from there, okay? Get those measures numbered, highlight your music. This is gonna be part of your participation grade for this week, so make sure that you get this done, okay? I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.